that guy, after he got married, for whatever reason, he uh, there's allegations that maybe he was pushed or something, but like he was in a hotel in Reno with his wife, who he was like newly married, and there's different stories about it. Maybe he committed suicide. I don't know, but he fell out of a hotel window, and yeah, and I was just like, oh, damn, like I actually felt like kind of bad because again, he was kind of a nicer kid, and the way Moon handled this was emailing or just like sending a message to members, and it got around and eventually got to me, and it was like, like you did this because you didn't have enough faith, and like I have to suffer with this because you're not working hard enough for me. Like he just handled it like a complete megalomaniac freak. Like this guy has no compassion. And right there, I was like, I get it now. Like I get it. Like this guy is not like on our level as a human being. He doesn't know how to be vulnerable. He handles it with authoritarianism. And so, yeah, right there, I was done.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Truth That Heals podcast. I'm your host, Ryan Anthony Hernandez, and today we have a special guest. We have Teddy Hose on the podcast. Teddy, how are you doing today?
Hey, doing all right. Just pretty mellow. Bit of a cloudy day in New York. I got a little bit of the seasonal affective stuff, but I'm happy to be here.
Well, I'm happy to have you on. And before we get started, I have to do a little introduction, especially to the audience, because they might be thinking, what's going on? What's Ryan never says stuff like this? Well, I got to do a little introduction because a few years back, I was in a cult. I didn't know it was a cult. I thought it was just a weird ass group. I was physically out, but still mentally in. And I would never call this group a cult back then. But then I started watching this show on, it was actually, I saw it on Hulu, but it was from A&E. And I believe it was called, correct me if I'm wrong, Extreme Cults and Beliefs,
Oh,
or
almost. Cults and extreme belief.
Cult and Extreme Belief. And I'm watching this show and I'm like thinking to myself, man, these guys were obviously in a cult. But it never resonated that I was in a cult until I heard you talk. I heard Teddy talking, and I
Wow.
don't know why. I don't know if it was just the tone of his voice or just the way how he shared his story, but I don't know how to explain it, but it just entered my brain, my mind, the thought, "Oh shit, was I in a cult?" Because these guys, these people on this show, they're just like me, just human beings. And I don't even remember exactly what it was that you said. It's been a few years back, but I remember that feeling. And just from there, that's what started my, I guess, like deconstruction, reconstruction. So, anyways, the audience, hey, here's the guy who helped me out in my own
Oh,
healing journey.
thanks, man. I appreciate that. No, and I had no idea. I was just like, honestly, I try to speak in a way where, people who grew up in the same cult I grew up in can understand. Like, I'm not like, man, those weirdos or what. Like, I would never, minimize the experience like that. It's very complex. There's a lot of good things and bad things, and but overall, just being under authoritarian control is never a good thing. So. Yeah, I don't know. Like, all right, can I just ask you, like, was it like one thing I said, or I'm like, how do I get good at this? How do I hone in on the key?
Well, I don't remember because at this time, like so many things
Okay.
were popping off in my mind, but I think it was just the way you spoke. Like
Hmm.
you can be like a homie that I can be, chilling with, and we can be having some. I'm thinking in my mind, we're having some like drinks, and I don't know. Maybe I felt because just the way you spoke was very like disarming, and it didn't come off as that approach of Like I don't know, just that uh, you seem kind. It didn't seem
Oh, thank you,
like you
man.
were. It didn't seem like. It didn't sound like. I mean, of course, you're. From what I do remember, you were speaking about the experiences, but I didn't feel like it was attacking cult members. You were really just
Hmm.
going on the experience, and from what I remember from my feelings, even though we're different cults, um, I don't know. It just had me stop and think. And the question I was asking myself was, "Whoa, was I in a cult?" I mean, this guy he's talking here, it's like, dude, he's like, he seems super chill. Like he's not making this up.
Mm.
And so that's what start. I can't pinpoint what sentence or maybe just the way,
Hmm.
just your demeanor. Just wow.
Oh, thanks, man. Yeah, I just like it wasn't until even like maybe 10 years after I left that I started to look at things critically. It was actually because I'm an artist. I'm from an artist family. And I was looking for my next muse, like what do I want to talk about? And then uh just something hit me like, oh, well, why don't I talk about the darkest secret of my entire childhood? And by the time, I was already out of the cult by the time I kind of reached adulthood. A lot of people in my generation who grew up in the Unification Church or the Moonies, um, they kind of got out as soon as like you leave that coop, and then you just start meeting people, and you're like, oh, it's not like what they said that it was. People are nicer, and I get like and more forgiving than what they said in the church. So, yeah, I read a book that just it was Take Back Your Life by Janja Lalich, and it just started to list like all these like symptoms of what it was like being in a cult, and like like dissociation and like CPTSD, and describing those like somatic experiences, and I was like, oh my God, yeah. In elementary school, my teachers used to be like, oh, Teddy daydreams a lot, he doesn't focus, and I'm like, oh shit, that was all trauma, like I couldn't be like, I don't know if I can trust my teacher because I live in this different world and they're supposed to be wrong, and like as a kid. So um, just like knowing that there were people who understood this and studied this, like made me feel okay to talk about it, So I feel like that's kind of where that was coming from, to some degree, yeah. And knowing how to talk about it and recognizing, the injustices like psychologically and everything within that whole fold, which, it feels like home when you're in it because you know it. So yeah.
I think you've answered a question that I've had, just trying to understand, what was it? And you said it perfectly that, uh, damn, I forgot what it's, I forgot what it was that you said, but you're saying something that it's like, being able to talk about it, with other
Hmm.
people. And I think, in the beginning, I I recognized that there were things that were wrong, but I didn't have the confidence to talk about it, especially
Hmm.
with people who were also like ex-members. I think a lot of the ex-members from the cult that I was in, uh, they recognized that bad things happened, but didn't want to admit because there's still like
Yeah.
many of us were mentally in. And I think
Mhm.
watching you and the others as well, because there were quite a few participants talking about it gave me, I think, like it opened the door to seeing that while it's not only me, that there are other people. So like for you in your own journey, besides reading Yanni Lalich's book, were there any other like maybe books or resources that helped you along your journey?
Um, I like my story is a little bit, I don't know how much other people who grew up in cults experience this, but like I mean the Unification Church is relatively newer than, some of the older extreme groups like Mormons or Jehovah's Witnesses, or, those that came from the 1800s. It started in like the early 1900s and came to America in the 50s. So like my parents were part of like the first flock of the Unification Church when things seemed a little more like hippie like, and like there wasn't as much of a power grab. It was they didn't feel the cultivation and trust and like growth in America enough to like have the confidence to be total assholes yet. That was like the decades to come, like in the 70s, and they ramped up like, hey, make more money for us and stuff like that. So like my parents joined in the 60s, and they just remembered a time when it was like, wait, like this Moon guy ruined everything because our middle manager guy, his name, they called him Papa San Che. I think his name was like Sun Hak Che in San Francisco. He was like this sweetheart, according to them. And he was just like chill and stuff. And like Moon didn't like that. So he came and broke it up. And he was like, everyone, you're appointed to these different missions in different cities. So I don't think they ever liked the cult leader.
Really?
That's the message I'm getting from them. Like they liked each other. They liked, that space, and they always kind of wanted it back, but I think they were too involved. How cults work. Like you get recruited, and just bit by bit, they pull each root out of, your family and your friends and everything you used to know, and they put you in this like superior, cult space. And anyway, so like that. Sorry, I forgot the question. Oh, you said if there were other resources. Yeah, so like my parents actually they eventually left, and like we all left, and it was kind of traumatic for me because I was like, wait, these are the only people I was ever allowed to trust. Like you raised me in this, and like now we're leaving. Like do I like how much do I trust you versus the cult? It's just those fucked up conflicts happen within, leaving a cult for people, anyone who were born and raised in it. So like yeah, like it was them, and then they also had like a flock of their friends from that same group. The early days, just the first flock of American members, and like, yeah, one of them, I was talking to them, and she was like, "Well, like I think a lot of religions say this, like we have the pure blood, because that's what they used in the Unification Church. They're like, if you're born into the church, you are cleansed of Adam and Eve's original sin." Of creating, the fall of man, that whole story of like, this is where sin comes from. So, Moon was like, I'm here to save you. And like anyone who joins, if your children are born into it, they're cleansed of that blood, and they have this responsibility of like maintaining that like, filtration. And yeah, so yeah, my parents, one of her friends, she was just who was also in the church and also kind of left. Yeah, she was like, I think a lot of religions say that. I think like the Muslims say that to some degree, and she grew up in a Jewish family before joining the Unification Church, and she was like, the Jews kind of have something like that, and really that's kind of what I try to focus on when I talk about this is like, you're not special. Like there's so many groups who have done this before you. Like, a lot of religious stories, if you look at civilizations before it, like the story of Ra, the story of like Hercules, and like, you know, um, what was it? Anyway, there's so many stories that are similar. Messiah, Son of God, resurrection. It's just, and that's cool. Like that's culture. Like everyone, likes to have culture and stories and heroes within the cultures. So like I'm okay with it as long as you don't have an agenda. Like that's what I kind of refined to like, yeah, that's the thing. It's like agenda. Like you can have your beliefs, but everyone, human beings, like it's our inherent nature to be flawed, to be wrong, and always growing and learning. So like no one can say like I know. It's like, no, you're full of shit.
Mhm.
Like that's it for me.
So when your family decided to depart from the Unification Church, were you like, no, like this isn't happening, like we should stay? Like was part of you like, I don't know, like arguing with your family?
Yeah, no, I appreciate that question. Um, at the time, I had just come back from like after high school, they have this program. At the time, it was called STF, like Special Task Force. I don't know, they couldn't come up with a better name. But now it's called GPA, Global Peace Academy. They try to make it sound more official, but it's basically a program where they get second generation. I think because they saw that a lot of us were leaving once we entered college or once we left home, it's like a way to keep you in. So after high school, it's not 100% required, but a lot of parents put pressure on their kids to do it. to you live in a church center and you basically are labor trafficked most of the time. You're selling door to door. I don't know if that's what happened in your cult, maybe as well. Cults are all about free labor. And yeah, so I had been through that program and it was very extreme. And there were also like workshops and like prayer circles and everything. It basically, I was doing it to see if I really wanted to stick with this or if I was like, all right, one last try. And it did indoctrinate me and it did like traumatize me in ways like it really is like a re-indoctrination program for second generation. So yeah, I had just come back from that. And I think my parents were like, oh shoot, like this guy changed, like, oh, he's sounding like what we kind of stepped away from a little bit. And they were like, I mean, the whole point of the Unification Church is to go to the arranged marriage, which is like the blood purity thing. And they said, if you don't want to go to that, like you don't have to. And I was just like, dude, like, yeah, I was like, what? And my parents stopped doing the rituals. Like every Sunday, we had to bow to a picture of Reverend and Mrs. Moon at 5 a.m. to like start the week, like the dawn of the week with them and like pray and cite a pledge that sounded very militaristic. They stopped doing that. And I was just like I'd never, that's all I knew. So it felt like I kind of took it personally. And my sister, I remember, also did this frontline program. And she was like, we got to save our family. Like she said that at one point, but it wasn't like a really hard stance because I think, uh, we also grew up going to public high school and public school. And, we lived between worlds, but mostly in the Unification Church because it's like, they were the only people we were nurtured to trust like family. And they all felt like family, aunts and uncles. I don't feel close to any of my blood relatives outside my immediate family. I feel like my aunts and uncles were church members who were around when I was growing up. So like, it was, and I was like, how do I approach my friends, my childhood friends from the Unification Church? I don't know how to approach them anymore. And it was hard for years. I was just like, I felt guilty if I got together with my like friends who grew up in the Unification Church and everything. But just so it took like years to finally realize like, hey, this isn't black and white. That's another, maybe you know this, but that's another symptom of leaving a cult is black and white thinking. So I was looking at them like, oh, they're gonna pull me back in and like that's wrong. And but no, we were just kids. We were growing into adulthood, coming of age and we were all learning, like, and we were questioning, and some people were more out than I was, or had more real world experiences than I did. And yeah, so yeah, it was hard. Yeah, just that's the long answer for that. Yeah.
Well, I think like part of the, I don't know, like the prayer life, you were saying is like 5 o'clock. You're bowing to the images of, what were the moons? Were they considered as God? Were like so? Would it be correct if I were to say you were bowing to an image of God and like they're
Uh Moon said he was the second coming of Jesus.
okay?
So that, yeah,
Okay, so you're bowing to the second. Sorry,
the second coming,
I got
yeah.
I gotta be I gotta be serious. So you're bowing to these images of, according to Moon, the second coming of Jesus.
Yeah,
You're doing these pledges in the morning.
yeah.
But it sounds like your parents stopped doing that. Did they stop doing that completely, like cold turkey, or was it like less and less?
I think okay, so the situation was that, and this happened in a lot of church families, at least back in my day when I was growing up. The oldest brother had to kind of take over as like dad, like they were parentified, as psychology calls it. And because my dad was always gone, like he felt the permission to, be this world traveling pastor, and he was saving kids, and he felt totally justified in like, oh, I'm helping other people, and like it was very patriarchal thinking, right? It's like, oh, mom is gonna like take care of them or like the church. And it was set up that way. I mean, kids were like put in nurseries, just extremely traumatized. Some of them died, like it's terrible. Um, and it traumatized the parents too, being away, that just like coercively persuaded to like for parents to be on missions away from their kids. So, a lot of people who leave cults will tell you it happens in layers, maybe for you too. It sounds like you already had your doubts before, like the big, like, whoa. But yeah, we weren't as like I don't know. I think that was a big defining moment. But yeah, what I was saying about my oldest brother is like I think he was the one. I think he felt some seniority, some entitlement because he did kind of raise us. Like he was there for us more than my dad in an immediate sense. So, um, he was the one who was like, why are we still bowing to this picture at 5? Like, I don't think we should do this. And so like, yeah, it made my parents think, and I think they were like, oh, oh, good. We can stop now. Like, they're like, because I think they didn't want to, props to them for like not wanting to traumatize us by saying like, oh, fuck this, we're out. When they were ready, they kind of knew that like we were so excited as children by it and seeing each other in the church, environments and estates and stuff like that. Again, that was our whole childhood. Those were the only times we could really be ourselves, like around our church friends and stuff. So yeah, it was so my parents have it's my dad said all the way back in 1971, he was like, "Should I stay in this?" And I was like, "Bro, like should have made a choice then." Anyway, he was yeah, he was kind of, I think a lot of people who I think he was on the spectrum. My dad, he's a brilliant artist, very loved and very kind person, but my mom has to do this a lot with him, and he forgets things. And I think a lot of people who join cults or fall into them, they find acceptance because maybe they're mentally, not on par with like, neurotypical people. And I feel like I have some of that too, but I like that word neurodiversity because like that's what I see it more than like some deficiency or something in a world with a template for like a certain type of person that I can kind of see through. It's like, okay, that works for you, but cool, you'll just become, some CFO or C-suite person. I'm gonna do what I want to do, and I'll make it work my way. Yeah.
And for you, when you saw that your family was drifting further away from the church, was part of you like, what are you doing? Like, we're gonna be cursed, or that's a sin. Was that ever like in your mind?
I think, yeah, initially there was some of that. Um, but I think, my parents being they were like respected members for being early kind of veteran members. Um, I guess that, that had some weight to it too. So like, I wasn't 100% Moons. And I actually growing up near, because I grew up near the Moons until I was 13, then we moved to Seattle. Um, because Moon said for families to move to their father's hometown to spread the witnessing effort. Later, I learned it was to break up a lawsuit in New York, but anyway, I don't know all the details there. I'd like to. But yeah, everything he does, he's a mobster to the bone. Like everything I learned later was for spiritual reasons, was for to escape the law.
Like some of the leaders were kind of having like beef with each other, or maybe I misunderstood, but like, was that happening? That some had like a little bit of beef with each other?
Um, the some of the leaders, yeah, there was like, I mean, yeah, like the subdivision my parents were part of in San Francisco in the 60s. Uh, they were called out by another local leader who was kind of a little more authoritarian. And yeah, she was the one who tattled on Moon. So I don't know if you heard that.
Tattled, tattled.
Yeah,
Oh
there is. I
man.
mean, cults are all about reporting each other. It's a environment of monitoring. It's like a jail. So like, yeah, yeah, that's what happened. And I don't know. My dad always, after leaving the church, that's when all the like, Reverend Kwok, who was another kind of sub leader, was like, I never knew what he was doing with the money, but I didn't have a good feeling. And I asked about it, and he gave me a vague answer. It was they just knew that they were involved in some crap, and I appreciate my parents for just kind of I think my dad being an artist. My mom's also very creative. She's an artist too. She's just she knits, she makes like these beautiful cards with pressed flowers for she's like they both have artistic sensibilities. So, if you're an artist and you're not being true to yourself, like that's torture. So, I mean, if you're a person, that's torture. You're not being true to yourself. But some people maybe are sociopaths or like are a little more settled in there or, um, not my parents. They couldn't, But at the same time, I think they are from working class families and they didn't feel a lot of economic or like financially competent power. They didn't know much about that. My dad had a very he was passed around a lot as a kid, as an adopted kid, and his mom had trouble with like just her husbands were either dying or there was divorce or something. So it was very choppy. And it answered a lot of questions for me of why he kind of wasn't quite there with our family. So, yeah, it was tough to feel empowered enough to just walk away and feel like we were going to be on firm ground. It was just wild. And I do appreciate my parents for surviving those really hard times. Yeah.
Was it almost like a gang where it's like East Side versus West Side, like or like this crew were better than that crew? Did you feel like that? Was it like a competition? Did it ever get dark?
Um, I mean, I just described the Moons as a mafia family. Absolutely. I watched Goodfellas and I was like, oh, that's just like the Moons, like a few times. I mean, there weren't really rival. I think at least among second generation, like we were just glad to have more people because we're like, these are the only people we're allowed to trust. Like all of our friends outside of this are like casual friends who we just, I mean, at least that's how I felt growing up, around the Moons until I was 13. Like I just, yeah, it was scary because like everyone in town knew about it and like, they were like, oh, like there's that weird estate, in our town. And like they were looking at the students in school and they wondered who was a Moonie or not, or, there's just this looming kind of thing. And so like it made me very paranoid as a kid and just immediately not trust people as like a default. But yeah, so like when we saw each other from other regions like LA or like I don't know, Texas or wherever, like we were like, "Hey, oh, you too? Oh, great. Wow, we can talk about this like horribly isolating experience when we're in public like with each other." And we're just like, and that's what cults do, right? It's like they traumatize you from like trusting just everyday people so that you'll grow closer with those people. So like a lot of people who are just like man, like, you guys call it a cult and stuff, but like, I don't know how I could have made any better friends than like with these people. And I'm like, yeah, do a little research because like, it was kind of conducted that way. So yeah, it was kind of orchestrated in that manner. And so, way to stick with the program, bro. But, I mean, it's not one-sided again. Like I look at those friends now, they'll always be like family to me. They'll always be like my childhood, friends, but like they're not my go-to friends because like personality wise I realize like we're not like I probably wouldn't have made friends with them uh as I am now, maybe some more than others, but like we're very like I had two friends who I hung out with a lot in the church and they're really into like sports and like I don't hardly watch sport. I watch some of the Olympics, but like, I don't know. Like, I'll watch the occasional whatever, but I'm like an art guy and I still go to goth clubs and stuff. So, like, I don't know. I'm like a weirdo maybe to them in some sense, but we'll always have that bond of like, well, we were there for each other as kids, like we were each other's family then. And, that's what we can like touch base on. Yeah.
I recently spoke with Faith. I'm sure
Oh,
you
yeah. I saw that. Yeah. That's
and
great.
she gave me a revelation I didn't know before. It was that Sun, oh, I don't know his name, Sun Young Moon, is that correct?
Sun Myung Moon.
Sun,
Yeah.
okay, I'll just say Mr. Moon, uh, that he actually coined the term
Yeah.
love bombing.
He did.
Um, but the crazy thing is like when I would go onto the compound where in the cult that I was in,
Mhm.
initially I felt like, wow, this is like the safest place. I feel like this is because of all that love bombing, I felt like just so special. And
Yeah.
if I were to go outside, I would feel like I was getting contaminated by disease of evil. But later
Mm.
on, I started feeling like, man, like what the hell am I doing here? Like that, all that like
Yeah.
illusion that I had of this compound being special started dying. Like it just started like dissipating.
Hmm.
Um, like, did you ever feel something like that? Like, dude, like I don't feel that same like uh I guess like love or something in this area at this place.
Yeah, and in high school, being away from the headquarters in New York of the Unification Church and being in a younger community where I didn't actually have friends my age in the Moonies, my youngest brother did, but um, like in Seattle, I just starting to like get to know high school friends. I was like, well, I guess I have to adapt and like just baby steps. And like, I hung out with like kind of the weirdos and the the kids from like dysfunctional families or like single parent families. Like I started to realize that, oh, we're the poor kids, or like we're the kids who didn't have our needs met, like most other people here in Bellevue, which is like a pretty prosperous, they joke about it being like fancy, like the Beverly Hills of like Seattle. I don't know why my parents moved there, why they picked it. They found a good deal. And anyway, but yeah, I just realized that they were nicer and like, which I don't know. I guess it didn't water down my church experience that much because like I guess my family like I don't know if this is a lot of your guests say this, but I feel like a lot of families who kind of had status, like their kids become the whistleblowers because it's like
Mhm.
you know, we're just like, oh, this wasn't as much of a threat to my family because like people respected us and like I got to like say what I want a little more. I mean, not compared to the Moons and to a lot of the Korean families because it was a Korean cult and Korean families had a lot of status. Um, but yeah, so yeah, um, I don't know. It was to me, it was just like all together. Like it's kind of like surviving in a dysfunctional family where things are just good enough where you just kind of like you exist in it and you enjoy the things, but you try to like find those safe corners. Like that's what it was with my friends. Like, when we hung out in the church
Mhm.
properties, we just had to make sure we wanted to make sure, or we couldn't make sure, but like we had to look out for if one of the Moon kids came and decided they were angry and wanted to give us an angry lecture or something, because their family is the most toxic, violent family I know. So, if they had a bad day, they would come and in religious terms, like be like, yeah, we're gonna crush Satan. And it's like, oh, do you look at women a certain way? Just really preachy, but also like just really toxic. And sometimes they would beat up some of my friends in my community. So it was like this thing of like, okay, let's, stay on the properties or meet up here or there or like as a community, um, but try to stay away as much as possible from the head family. Um, so like I always knew that, yeah, that was wrong, but I didn't dare say to myself, like, oh, yeah, the Moons are a messed up family and they're being hypocrites, so I'm gonna leave because I really had nothing to leave to. I just had to that they coupled that experience so well of like the juicy like friendships and these are the people who are the only people who will understand you versus you have to deal with these people who give hours long lectures and like just about pseudoscience and who just like take out their anger on you and talk about weird sometimes sexual perverted things and whatever they wanted just like any other cult leader or cult leading family. So yeah. Um, but yeah, I think in adulthood, as I started to get to know the real world more, yeah, that's kind of what made me look at things a little more critically. Like, oh, that didn't need to happen, like, yeah. But maybe not as strong as it sounds like what you were saying about your experience.
Well, like initially, like every time I'd be like, because they would tell us that like when you're here on this compound, it's like holy ground, and as soon as you step out, just expect the demons to be attacking you, and they're gonna try to latch on. So that
Hmm.
kept us to be thinking, or at least for me, my eyes down, keep away from the world. And as soon as I'm back on the property, it's like, oh, I feel like like in video games, like where let's say you're on fire and then you like go in a special zone, and then it's like your HP like starts going back up, you know. So
Yeah.
I would feel like that, but even though there was like abuse, or I don't, maybe not, that's not the word, but even though, yeah, abuse happening or toxic traits, I would always see it as, well, this place is blessed by God, so just allow it, or just
Yeah.
um, not fight it. But as I started maturing, kind of like how you're saying, as you get a little bit older and wiser and start thinking a little bit, it started kind of like that reverence that I had started really falling fast. And then I remember like, uh, yeah, I even getting into arguments, like really, like, I mean, I became a feisty dude, you know? So it's like I'm not surprised I did a podcast, but I think hearing you, going back to the beginning, just because there was a lot of anger and like feistiness, and but like hearing you and the rest on the panel just gave me that approach where it's okay to, share one story, but in a charitable and still, hold one's truth. And that's what I got. But I wanted to move on real quick and explore your departure. So yeah, you mentioned that your family left, you started leaving, but then you got into the A&E. Like, how did that happen?
So yeah, my parents kind of left, also kind of in layers. So they were already kind of like not believing that Moon was the Messiah in so many words. And I was still like trying to figure out what that meant for my family. And so I was like 18 when they first kind of said those things. And just again feeling like weird about meeting up with my church friends again and being like, oh no, I'm regressing or something, just like, I don't know how to like hold these two truths, the same time. But for me, what it was, what made me decide to kind of pull the plug was like, when it was actually when Reverend Moon's son died. He had a son named Youngjin, who was the next oldest brother from the guy from the gun cult, Sean Moon. His American name was Philip Moon, and Philip, like, he was actually one of the nicer, like, they called them true children, one of the true family kids, whatever, one of the Moon kids. And he was one of the nicer Moon kids, and like because they would always come to the properties where we were hanging out. Sometimes they just like stop by. And Sean was just a total asshole. He was a bully. He would just humiliate the other kids and make them fight each other for his own entertainment and just like laugh at them and pit them against each other. He was awful. And his older brother though was nicer. He would play like D&D with the kids, and he just had this more mellow tone. So it was like you always hope you get that guy and not Sean, who, when I saw him with the gun cult and the crown, I was like, oh, of course he'd do that. He's a total dick. Anyway, so like, yeah, I like that guy after he got married, for whatever reason, he uh there's allegations that maybe he was pushed or something, but like he was in a hotel in Reno with his wife, who he was like newly married, and there's different stories about it. Maybe he committed suicide, I don't know. But he fell out of a hotel window, and yeah, and I was just like, oh damn, like I actually felt like kind of bad because again, he was kind of a nicer kid. And the way Moon handled this was emailing, like, or just like sending a message to members, and it got around and eventually got to me. And it was like, like you did this because you didn't have enough faith. And like, like I have to suffer with this because you're not working hard enough for me. Like he just handled it like a complete megalomaniac freak. Like this guy has no compassion. And right there, I was like, I get it now. Like I get it. Like this guy is not like on our level as a human being. He doesn't know how to be vulnerable. He handles it with authoritarianism. And so, yeah, right there I was done. And it's a little easier to kind of see where I stood and like with my family and everything. And that was like my own experience. And through my 20s, I just was like, okay, yeah, I was in a cult, haha, like at parties, I'd be like, yeah, I was in a cult, pretty crazy, right? Whoa. And just like drinking, getting to know friends, going to college, going to art school. I would watch those like like blind date, that reality show to like quell my like worries because some of those guys were so bad. I'm like, this is the most confidence boosting show. It's like, oh wow, I'm not like it's very healing. Blind date. Anyway, but then in my 30s, yeah, I was like, looking for my next muse as an artist, and yeah, and that story is interesting because it came from like at the time I was listening to iTunes a while ago, and like just there was like a kind of a radio station. They had like iTunes stations that were just kind of like clips of it was either songs or clips of comedy. I was listening to like stand-up comedy. I always grew up loving it. And there was one guy, I can't find who it was, but he talked about like his parents dying as part of his act. And I was like, whoa. And like, yeah, like just he brought this extremely vulnerable, painful thing to the stage. And that's what made me like, well, if he can say that, what's my deepest, darkest secret? And just like, boom, like right away, I was like, oh, duh, like Unification Church. But, that just shows you how art can like, just really open doors psychologically, like the power of art. And just from there, I was like, I actually wanted to present it in a way that was more complex, like kind of like, probably why you're doing this as well. I wanted to be like, look, there were a lot of good things. And like, I don't like how the media just like slaps the cult name on it. And like, which actually they weren't, but we were led to believe that they were doing that. Like, as I did more research, I'm like, oh no, they have journalistic integrity, for the most part, except for more of the grifters. But like, I was like, yeah, I want to present it in a certain way. But like, after a few weeks of research, I realized that like every accusation that I used to push away about the church was like absolutely correct. And they were really as bad as the media said. And for like these reasons, because it was like attached to political or like power or like, it was always, but then throw a spiritual narrative over it so that everyone else sticks with the program and helps you become, more greedy and corrupt and, more of a dictator. So yeah, that was it. Yeah, that was the arc of like, 20s just kind of mess around. And then until I hit that point, yeah, again, the artist thing and coming from an artist family, it's like, I gotta be true, that's my job in this world. And I mean, that's anyone's job, but as an artist, especially, like people are gonna see it, so you have to like use that as your battery for your work. So yeah, that was that.
Um, Something that you said actually gave me chills.
Right.
Yeah, but I mean, it's not your fault. But the way you said it, I was like, oh dang, because you said that after one of the sons passed away, that I don't know who it was, but that this person said you did this.
Yeah, Reverend Moon. Yeah.
And that like I felt it because I remember our
Yep.
cult leader would tell us like for small things, it's
Hmm.
like like how come we don't have like how come this is happening? Because you're not praying. This is all your fault. And he would say it to all of us. And I know like in the end, some will probably say, "Oh, he's just trying to inspire you guys," or maybe it's true you're not praying enough. But it was like abusive, and it really like left a message in our minds, even in my mind, that I was never good enough, that anything bad that
Hmm.
happened to
Yeah.
other leaders or other members, it falls on
Hmm.
me. And that like I mean it just wow, like I felt that. I was like, dang, dude, like dude, it's crazy.
Yeah, there's a lot of like sometimes I'll like if I'm doing research about the church or something like they'll like I remember I saw this like timeline of spiritual events that were all just like none of this no scholar would respect any of these, but it's like heaven and earth, blah blah blah. Then this portal opened up and like there's all these like the restoration of and one of them was like the world was restored because blah blah blah. And I was like, wait, that happened in the 80s? Like, oh, you guys were done. Like someone should tell everyone, like they're free to go. And it's like, but then yeah, I realize like there's always like they just, yeah, they try to get the monkey on your back. Like I remember I was trying to decide on the next thing of like, oh, should I go to which is like the holy temple of the whole worldwide church is called Chungpyeong in South Korea. And it's like this kind of healing center where you do this weird ritual of slapping each other. I don't know if Faith talked about it, but yeah, you just like you hit each other to like get the demons out, literally. And Scientology has a similar philosophy of like tiny demons in your body. They call them body thetans. So any Scientologists out there, the Moonies like totally did a dupe of that. Like we call it just evil spirits, and they're like, you got to slap it out of your body. And anyway, so that was like, this is the next thing you have to do in order to stick with the program or to reach the next spiritual whatever. And of course, it costs hundreds or thousands of dollars. And like, I was like, should I do this or like, should I take, what is it? But I was like, that's like the path of least resistance. And there's all these virtuous stories of like, take the road less traveled,
Yeah.
And I was like, should I just go to college or experience life? And that's when I talked to that friend of my parents who was like, oh yeah, a lot of different religions have like the pure blood, or we have the pure race or whatever, eugenics, and so yeah, that was pretty pivotal for me. I don't know if I ever told her that, but yeah.
Did you go
Um,
to Korea?
hmm.
Did you go?
No, they did like a light version where they brought it to America as like the budget version where they brought that ritual. They did a tour around the country and you pay like a little bit and you just do the like you slap yourself or you slap like other people while singing this song over and over for like an hour. It's just like total cultiness. Like anyway, but yeah, so I was like, it didn't really have a spiritual whatever. And then just by the time like I guess that was enough for me to be like, all right, I think I'm all right, like letting it go now. Like, yeah. And again, I was like becoming more of an adult. It was like in my early 20s and already kind of growing out of it. So, yeah.
Yeah, well, I spoke to Faith and she mentioned that there's like this holy temple and that she went there and that was it. And then went back went back to America. She didn't I don't think she mentioned about the slapping. I don't remember. Um
Hmm.
but yeah, so you did the budget version. Then later on, uh I wanted to ask like how did you feel after years away from the church being on camera?
Oh, I had before that experience for like almost a decade before that is when I like it was like 2009 when I heard that stand-up clip and I was like, oh, I'm gonna focus on the church, whatever. And then I started to become more actively critical, not just like, yeah, I'm not with that anymore. I was like, oh, this is wrong. And it's infused in our government and it's infused in policy and money and politics, everything geopolitically around the world. They're part of the problem that is like all the way down to like genocide and stuff like they're helping to fund death groups and stuff. Behind the Bastards did like a two-part long timeline episode about it. And wow, it's just like, yeah, they're like also anti-communist, which is kind of a red herring for like, an imperial message. So yeah, yeah, uh, I think I was ready. I was like in a like a Vice article, like just quoted in something. I th what I I don't know. I was trying to get the word out one way or another. I might have been on like a small podcast here or there. I can't remember. Like I think, or I was also like setting up groups like online where I just like talk about everything with everyone. And one of the most healing things is to hear like first generation, right? Like the ones who are adults who are like relatives, who are like our extended family to hear them come around and for some of them to apologize was like, see it right here, it's like it means the world. It's like wow, like, we joined this and you guys were born into it and we're sorry, and that took a lot for them to get there, but that is very healing. And then for me to just talk to other second generation who grew up in it too and like just be like sometimes joking about it, sometimes being like, whoa, you too, or something like sleep paralysis was something that I realized a lot of us like experienced, and it's, you know, also attached to trauma, see PTSD, yeah, dissociation, other things like, oh, did you guys grow up in a home where like it was always kind of messy inside, or like your furniture never matched, or like it's like, yeah, you don't take care of your individual space in a cult. Like you're always thinking of the mission. And so like your place is just kind of ignored. And it's just a reflection of the self-denial, which is actually exploitation, you know, wrapped in some pious thing. So yeah, it was, yeah, I felt supported enough. And also, I don't know, the International Cultic Studies Association. I think I went to a conference there. I actually met, God, why am I forget his name? Vince, the guy from the Vow. Uh, I
Ah,
can't believe I forgot his name. Anyway, but
yeah.
he was like the main documentarian. Sorry, I forgot your name, buddy. But I think it was like shoot.
Keith Vicente, something Vicente? Was it
Oh,
Vicente?
Mark Vicente.
Mark
Yeah, Mark
Vicente, yeah.
Vicente. Yeah, I met him in 2018. But yeah, I would just meet all these cult scholars who were just like who get it, and I went to these talks and just the more I learned about what these experts knew and how much it spoke to my experience, the more I was like, "Oh, like I have a place in this world, like I have like, you know, it's okay. I'm allowed to feel these feelings, and like for other people to say it meant so much. And like, yeah, so I think some people might not take, psychology or therapy so seriously. They might think, oh, this is just what rich people do, or this is just like whatever, and I could see that it's kind of a Western approach to like mental health and stuff. But it's like when you read that description and it's like, wait, what? That's a thing? That has a name? Like that's what I grew up with my whole life. Like it's like somebody cares and understands. So yeah.
I always have a final question, and that is, Teddy, what is your truth that heals?
My truth that heals. Just hearing it from other people, probably. That's the strongest thing, is like talking to other ex-cult members, and like just um knowing that, you know, I think I guess what comes to mind right now is like when I do get social anxiety, when I am getting to know someone and I'm tempted in my mind to be like, oh, they don't get it, or like, oh, they're not going to understand me. I'm too weird or dark for them, you know, that I just have to be patient with myself. And like eventually I find like weird things about them that I'm like, oh, they're weirder than me, like, so just understanding that I have a lot of blocks, but that people are trustworthy and people care, like, as long as you don't pick up, from our cultivated, cult senses of like, wait, this guy's a narcissist, or like, wait, oh, this guy, little more dangerous. But I think, um, being patient with myself about getting to know people, and like, when I do feel that wall go up, I consciously tell myself, I'm like, it's not gonna be like this forever. Like this coworker, like eventually you're gonna get to know him, and you're just gonna be like, hey, how's it going? So yeah, I think that's healing to know. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for sharing. Where can people see your clip on cults and extreme beliefs? Where is it again?
I mean, you could, well, my social media is at Teddy Hose on Instagram and like Blue Sky. Uh on TikTok, I'm at 2D, like, flat, like 2D hose. And my like a clip, I guess. I don't know if it's on Hulu anymore. I think it's on Amazon, maybe.
Okay.
Called An Extreme Belief, but I think it's episode 5, and then episode 9, which I believe is the last episode, is where we kind of have like the round table with all the people who left cults, because like each episode's about a different cult. And mine's about it stars me. I basically talk about my experience growing up in the Unification Church, in response to Reverend Moon's son, Sean Moon, who has this gun cult, which back then it was called Sanctuary Church, or World Peace and Unification Sanctuary, but now it's called Rod of Iron Ministry. And yeah, they have something called the Freedom Festival every year, where they invite people like um, uh, just like far right grifters and stuff, like Steve Bannon was there, I think Don Jr. and like, yeah, anyway, and like Joey Gibson, like it's they're part of that ilk, like the far right grifters, and they have the money to like be there and influence campaigns and everything. Anyway, but yeah, it's on wherever you can get A&E and Cults and Extreme Belief. If you just Google it, sure, you'll find it. Way to watch it.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing, and thank you for impacting my healing journey. And to the audience, if you enjoyed this episode, please feel free to leave a few stars over on Spotify, or if you're watching this on YouTube, feel free to give a thumbs up, subscribe, and please share this episode so that more people can hear the truth that heals provided by our guest today, Teddy Hose. And you can also help the Truth That Heals podcast, help me to keep this podcast going. And if you'd like to do so, you can buy me a coffee at buymeacoffee.com/truth7. All of your contributions help me to pay for simple things like the Zoom, for the software, and to help me pay my bills. So again, thank you to the audience. And thank you, Teddy, for sharing your Truth That Heals on the podcast today.
Thanks, man. I really appreciate the opportunity, any opportunity to talk about it. Glad things, I hope you're continuing to like just, make this a bigger thing. And I mean, it's really great that you're doing this. And yeah, really appreciate it.